adversaries are taking advantages of the loopholes and the lack of enforcement by the prior administration to fleece our senior citizens of their valuable life savings. And they are doing it in a sophisticated manner. These individuals started call centers. The funds they utilized and they scammed out of these call centers from senior citizens from across America totaled over $400 million.
America, there's a version of this country where the people robbing your grandmother and the people protecting your grandmother wear different uniforms and answer to different bosses. Turns out one of the bosses just got charged and the other one just got a press conference.
Good morning. Today, the Department of Justice, in coordination with the Homeland Security Task Force, announced the unsealing of 5 separate indictments against high-ranking CJNG leaders. We're also announcing today with the State Department more than $100 million in rewards.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. $230 billion. That's the fraud that the federal task force has found since it started. 56 billion of it never even went out the door. J.D. Vance said it himself, sitting at the table with Andrew Ferguson and Stephen Miller.
We have been able to identify $230 billion of fraud just since the fraud task force was set up. And that's frankly, by conservatively estimating it, we've been able to stop $56 billion in fraudulent payments that would have otherwise gone to fraudsters rather than to the people who need them. And
the same week, the fraud division stood up in Philadelphia, 19 people charged, over $4 million in fake home health billing in Pennsylvania Medicaid.
Today, we are announcing criminal charges against 19 defendants for fraudulent home health care schemes that targeted Pennsylvania's Medicaid fraud program and resulted in over $4 million of fraud. Infiltrated by greedy and deceitful opportunists, this program becomes a money tree, a gravy train for criminal fraudsters.
A gravy train. I hope it was the brown gravy. I'm not a white gravy fan, but the gravy train, that's the DOJ's official saying on camera. It's not mine. Here's how one of these home health cases actually looked. A woman in Pennsylvania billed the government for taking care of an elderly Medicaid patient. Same week she billed, she was in Miami. Escondido, Miami. Okay? Poolside, cocktail bar, 2 nights, 2 posts, time-stamped. Dummy. And you guys, she didn't get caught by an auditor. She got caught by her own Instagram. And Newsmax pulled the one that should embarrass every agency involved. A defendant billed the government for home health care while he was sitting in prison.
The schemes that we've seen, they involve people who are claiming to give health care to their elderly family members and others in their homes. But in many cases, they're not where they say they are, and they're certainly not giving the care that they say that they're giving and that they're billing the American taxpayer, including one case involving a conspiracy where a defendant was in prison while billing the American taxpayer.
That's so crazy.
One honest complication here, you guys, because got to give credit where credit is due. This same task force sentenced a Texas physician out of Kingwood to 12.5 years for running an opioid pill mill. That's not a talking point. That is a doctor in prison for over a decade. Here's how it actually works, you guys, in a couple steps. 1, the state runs a program with your tax dollars. Step 2, the federal government hands over the money, but not the actual paperwork. Step 3, nobody checks for hours against the calendar or the passport stamp. Step 4, the only audit that ever happened here was a stranger scrolling on Instagram. They didn't outsmart the system. The system just wasn't watching at all. This is the same story, you guys, every time we peel back the onion. The program exists to help somebody who actually needs it, whether it's a sick grandparent, a disabled veteran, a kid on SNAP, then somebody with a pen and no conscience turns it into a personal ATM machine, and honest people are waiting for actual real care and they never get any. They just get the leftovers. I'm going to give you the timeshare analogy of all this. You show up for a free dinner, you sit through a 90-minute absolute snooze fest of a presentation, and by the end of it, their quote-unquote manager appears out of nowhere to try to close you on a deal that you never actually asked for. The program was the free dinner. The fraud was always the pitch. At least in my opinion, you guys enabling this kind of theft is not compassion. It's cruelty with a nicer word attached to it. However, the Democrats want to describe it as. Somebody decided years ago that millions and millions of dollars worth of fraud wasn't worth prosecuting. We all know what side that was. And obviously that's not an accident. That is by choice, made by a person on a specific date with a coalition behind it. And the real cost of it is seniors' real care. And guys, just don't take my word for it. Go ahead and check for yourself. Every state's Medicare fraud control unit posts its own cases and they list them publicly. If you search your own state plus the words here, Medicaid fraud control unit, a lot of people don't know about it. I didn't know about it until this. Check it out, and you'll be able to see everything. Now we got to talk about Massachusetts and Governor Healey. She just signed a law banning ICE from schools, hospitals, and courthouses statewide.
By signing the PROTECT Act today, ICE agents will no longer be allowed in our hospitals, our community health centers, or our nursing homes. I don't know how you can look at that and not say, ICE is making us less safe. ICE is making us less safe.
Same week over in New York City.
New York City.
Our good friend, Mayor Zorhan, thank you, come again, Mamdani, just got asked about the death in ICE custody. And he said this.
And I do believe that ICE should be abolished. I do believe that there should be humanity back at the heart of the way in which our country conducts immigration enforcement. And what we are seeing is that these are not intellectual debates. These are conversations that have fatal consequences if we continue with the kinds of policies that we're seeing the federal government pursue.
Now here's the part these two never put next to the other headline. The same week, the DOJ unsealed indictments for the CJNG, the cartel the federal government designated as a foreign terrorist organization. And buried inside those indictments is a scheme that actually ran for 4 years, stealing, get this, you guys, $400 million from over 6,000 Americans. Most of them, by the way, were elderly through fake timeshare resale cons.
CJNG targeted Americans who are aspiring to own or already own timeshares in Mexico, many of them elderly, and promised them profits for selling or renting them. Between 2019 and 2023, the scheme has defrauded over 6,000 Americans of over $400 million.
One 83-year-old man paid this cartel for 8 years straight. We're talking about fake lawyers. We're talking about fake government letterhead, fake Mexican law enforcement threatening him with arrest if he didn't send more moolah, more money. And here's the con. You bought a timeshare in good faith years ago. A cold call promised to sell it for you for free up front. The money never comes back, and a new caller poses as a lawyer who can quote-unquote fix it for, obviously, another fee. When you push back, a fake Mexican official calls you and says that you're the one who broke the law, so now you got to pay again and again, or you get arrested. It's not one lie. It's 4 lies stacked on top of one another, and every single one of them targets a person who's actually too polite to hang up the frickin' phone. The agency, you guys, that just tore this network apart is ICE and its federal partners. Let me rewind that back so you can hear that. ICE and federal partners, that's the same agency that a sitting mayor just said shouldn't exist. This is like the cable company retention department. You call to cancel because your bill is freaking so high because they got a monopoly on your city and your town, okay? You call to cancel, they transfer you to somebody new. That person offers you a quote-unquote special deal, and by the time you hang up, you paid 3 more months for crap that you didn't even want. Except for the product here isn't cable. It's an old man's retirement. Follow the money on this one, guys, because it always ends the argument. You can't claim that you are protecting vulnerable people while fighting the exact agency that just clawed back $400 million stolen from vulnerable Americans. You got to pick a lane here. Here, though, is something that you can actually watch. Next time a politician announces a sanctuary policy, count how many seconds they spend naming an actual criminal enterprise that ICE just dismantled in their own state. Most of the time, guarantee you, most of the time, that number is a big old goose egg. It is zero. The State Department just put a $25 million reward on the head of the CJNG's current leader, plus 7 more rewards up to $15 million apiece. I want to know in the comment section who's going bounty hunting for CJNG people, okay? The total on the table here is over $100 million.
Today, in this historic action supporting President Trump's directive to eliminate narco-terrorist cartels, the State Department is announcing more than $100 million in reward money for information leading to the arrest and/or convictions of 8 leaders and associates of Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación. This includes a $25 million reward offer for Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, also known as Pelón, the leader of CJNG, who rose to power following the death of the cartel's former boss, El Mencho. Pelón and his vicious organization are directly responsible for poisoning many American communities with illicit fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and fueling massive violence. They are responsible for the murders of hundreds of thousands, including countless American citizens. 7 additional rewards today, ranging from $2 million to $15 million.
Meanwhile, at the border, CBP agents in Laredo, this is epic. CBP in Laredo pulled $1.1 million in cocaine, the white stuff, off a single crossing. $400 million stolen from your neighbors, $100 million bounty to end the guy who ran it, 1.1 in cocaine stopped before it hit in a single American street. Stopped cold. Finito burrito. That's what your federal law enforcement dollars actually brought you this month. Senator Torch is acting attorney general over a $2 billion fund, but wait until you hear whose $2 billion it actually is.
The whole purpose of Trump's $2 billion MAGA slush fund is to funnel taxpayer dollars to the Oath Keepers and other Trump cronies. Just the other day, Trump himself defended his slush fund, describing it, quote, a reimbursement for the pain that January 6th insurrectionists suffered. Donald, what pain have these insurrectionists suffered? You let them off scot-free. Republicans don't get to yap about being the party of law and order when they're handing out pardons and cash rewards like candy to convicted cop beaters. Do Senate Republicans want to give a promotion to Blanche, the same guy who came up with the idea of these reparations for rioters?
Chuck Schumer is mad about a $2 billion fund for January 6th defendants. He's not wrong to ask questions. Anybody can ask questions, right? He's just never this loud about a $56 billion fraud task force his own side keeps voting to defund.
The so-called agreement not to create the weaponization fund is written in a way it wouldn't pass Law School Contracts 101. There's no signature on any of these pages of promises when it comes to future activity.
And that's a fair legal point. Doesn't change the fact that the $230 billion fraud number didn't come from Durbin's side of the aisle either. 2 numbers, 2 agencies, both free.
You know, I have had the privilege of speaking to Dr. El Sayed a few times. What I will say, and this was years ago, once when he came to New York City, he can lift a lot more than I can. And I think we should give him his respect in that way.
$60 million in outside spending couldn't stop that primary win. It's funny how money can't buy everything except apparently a home health care license in Pennsylvania. America, here is the thread running through everything. One side keeps telling you the biggest threat to your family is the agency that just tore a $400 million elderly fraud pipeline out of a designated terrorist cartel. The other side is busy handing out 12.5-year sentences and $100 million bounties on people who actually did all the robbing, okay? You said thank you for protecting the vulnerable, then you called for abolishing the old agency that just did it. That's not policy. That is a costume. Performance theater, you guys. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.